I'm Vlad. This is 25 frames. 25 photographs you have never seen. With stories that nobody told you. Stay until then. Let's begin.
From 1910 to 1985, Pennsylvania was home to the legend of Faceless Charlie. The locals told of a horrible monster without a face that only showed up at night and lurked late travelers on the roads. The story was passed down from generation to generation and became almost a local landmark, and no one suspected that underneath all this speculation lay the real story. Faceless Charlie turned out to be a man named Raymond Robinson, who at the age of 9 lost his face and right arm in an electric shock. After that, Raymond never went out in public but was much loved by his family and loved ones. The man occasionally took walks near one of the country highways where he was spotted several times by drivers in the headlights. In the garage at the house, 1996. Jeffrey Dahmer's refrigerator filled with human limbs. The killer didn't kill on a whim, he killed out of hate. He had 17 victims, all of them young. Once in custody, he uttered the words, "I hate colored people and fags." Before committing the atrocity, Jeffrey would sweet-talk the victim and then invite them to his home. There, he would serve whiskey and coke with sleeping pills. When a man passed out, Dahmer strangled him, then began to commit sexual intercourse, and at the end of the corpse, dismembered. All his brutal acts were captured on an old Polaroid. He disposed of the corpses in 2 ways: dissolving them in sulfuric hydrochloric acid in the bathtub, boiled with caustic chemicals, then dumped the substance down the drain. Jeffrey preferred to keep the severed limbs and organs in the refrigerator as a memory of the victim. Operation Mincemeat, 1943. The coast of Spain. A fishing boat picks up the body of a man in the uniform of an English naval officer, with a suitcase strapped to his wrist. The suitcase is taken to the shore, where German intelligence picks him up. Medic, having examined the corpse, concludes that the officer died no more than 5 days ago, having fallen out of an airplane and swallowed seawater. Thanks to a certificate found in his pocket, the name of the Englishman, Major William Mapton, becomes known. A Red Army man at a post at a telephone set, 1925, photographer Arkady Shakit. A worker at a steel factory in Winterthur, Switzerland, 1943, photographer Werner Bischoff. Diver after diving on the sunken battleship Arizona at Pearl Harbor. London proved that double-decker buses are not dangerous to overturn, 1933. Punks in Poland, 1990. Death to 1 in 10. Decimatio is the highest measure of disciplinary punishment in the Roman army, which was the death penalty for every 10th person by lot. It was first mentioned in the chronicles of the Roman Republic. Decimation was subjected only for the most terrible military crimes: flight from the battlefield, loss of the symbol of the legion, failure to obey an order that had serious consequences. The guilty were divided into tens, after which they pulled pebbles of different colors from a bag, 9 of which were white, and the remaining one was black. To the soldier who got a black stone applied fustuarie, his comrades had to beat him to death with sticks, sometimes stones were used. After that, they were bound by their friend's blood and were henceforth obliged to be brave. "I'll still come back. You know vampires are immortal." Quote of the maniac Fritz Haarmann, whom even the judges considered a real vampire, who sent 27 people to the other world. That's why a very exotic way of execution was chosen. His head was chopped off. A hot dog stand in New York City, Little Italy, 1963. A foreign poster of the 1982 Soviet melodramatic film Station for Two, directed by Eldar Ryazanov.
Almost there. The last story is coming. Don't stop
Chita
now.
Regional Duma Deputy Dmitry Nepomnyashchik Center, in the company of Kluchevskoy OCG killers Alexander Sergeyev, Left, and Vladislav Telkin, 1990s. Painting by Elena Zaprodskik. When will you move out already? 2023. Journalists at work during Prince Charles's visit to Russia in 1994. Asphalt paver, USSR, 1961. Soviet actress Natalia Andreychenko, 1988. Charlie Chaplin's daughter, Geraldine Chaplin, on the set of Dr. Zhivago, 1965. Ewan McGregor and cameraman Brian Tufano in Scotland's worst toilet on the set of On the Needle, Glasgow, 1996. General Pinochet greets Salvador Allende, 1970s. A Soviet Mi-8 helicopter flies in front of a large Buddha statue in Bamiyan, Afghanistan, 1980. In 1924, a dog named Pep became the first dog to receive a prison sentence. For what exactly? Killing the governor of Pennsylvania's cat. Pep received a life sentence in prison and never returned to freedom. Subscribe to us. U.S. Marines tear down a statue of Saddam Hussein in downtown Baghdad, April 9, 2003. Few people know, but Bluetooth was named after a Danish king, King Harald the Bluetoothed. In English, Bluetooth ruled Denmark from 958 til 906. The U.S. finally denied the USSR membership in NATO May 7, 1954. With this decision, the U.S. made clear its hostile stance toward the Soviet Union, which led to a further arms race and an escalation of the Cold War between the two powers. Test pilot George Aird, piloting an English Electric Lightning F-1, ejected from his aircraft at a fantastically low altitude at Hatfield, Hertfordshire, on September 13, 1962. This photo was taken during an air show in 2002 at the Sneelew Airfield. This crash broke the record for the number of air show victims. 77 people died, including 28 children, and 543 people were recognized as injured. First day of school for Mila Kunis, 1980s. She grew up in Chernivtsi, Western Ukraine. Photo by Ushanka Shaw. King Victor Emmanuel III of Italy, fires a rifle at an Austrian airplane during World War I, sometime between 1915 and 1918. Manhattan Bridge under construction, March 1909. School bus, 1930. Viking skates, 10th century AD, made of leather and horsebone. This is how Austro-Hungarian gendarmes dressed for service in the cold in 1914. At the 1964 Olympics in Tokyo, Alexei Vakonin, during his exit, threw a phrase to the Hungarians who were already celebrating the victory. "You don't know shit about minors," and lifted the barbell. And when the judges fixed the weight, he shouted "Hopa" and raised his left leg. The photo with this trick went around the world. Improvised mortar. Finnish troops use a makeshift slingshot to throw grenades towards Soviet troops. Winter War, 1939 to 1940. American soldiers leave Vietnam, February 1970. Alexander Lukashenko during his service in the border troops, 1970. An Ethiopian soldier holding a poster about the joint struggle of Ethiopia and the USSR against the Somali invasion. February 1978. Mammoth Baby Dima, Magadan region, 1977. Alfred Stroessner was a Paraguayan dictator who was re-elected president of Paraguay 8 times and ruled for 35 years from 1954 to 1989. Grateful Paraguayans smashed his statue, pressed it with a concrete block, tied it with rebar, and wrote "Never Again." That is all that remains in the memory of the people from the dictator. Border guards of the Mongolian People's Republic, mid-20th century. Color slides from the scrapbook Luftwaffe Servicemen. Apple monoblocks are assembled at the company's factory, Cupertino, California, January 25th, 1984. Persia, the vicinity of the holy city of Qom. Early 20th century. In the center is not a statue, but a man who was tied up, built a wall of raw brick around him, and then filled this form with lime. Such punishment was applied for stealing 2 cucumbers. Shanghai in 1987 and in the present day. A German tank from the First World War. Why doesn't your mom wash you with fairy soap? It's such a vintage commercial. Jennifer Aniston at a photo shoot for the first season of the TV series Friends in 1994. miners and their workhorse in a mine, France, 1970. Halloween, 1900s. Rare photo, Madonna, Sting, and Tupac together. Chinese soldiers beg for mercy from a South Korean soldier, thinking they are going to be executed, 1951. Imagine a soldier who does not know that the war is over and continues to fight for another 30 years, but everyone has forgotten about him. Such was Hiroo Onoda, the commander of a Japanese army reconnaissance team. He simply refused to believe that the war was over because he had not received a direct order to surrender and continued to conduct guerrilla activities with his unit. During 30 years in the jungles of the Philippines, Onoda, adapted to their conditions, led a nomadic lifestyle, collected information about the enemy, and together with his subordinates, made more than 100 attacks on the American radar base, Filipino officials, and police. During these operations, he killed 30 and seriously wounded more than 100 military and civilians. The way it all ended was that Onoda's immediate commander arrived on the island and made contact with him and announced his surrender order. On March 10, 1974, he surrendered to the Philippine forces. Japanese woman carrying her children in a bucket on her head, Japan, 1900s. Funeral after the Maria mine fire that killed 319 people on May 31st, 1898. Although one man was sentenced to 3 years in prison, the cause of the fire remains unknown. Seabraham, Bohemia, Austria, Hungary. A cart pulled by dogs, Volendam, Netherlands, about 1906. A game of chess on Broadway, New York. This picture was observed in August 1986 at the corner of Broadway and West 49th Street in Midtown Manhattan. The photograph was taken by Yvonne Maurice. A lone demonstrator walks through a group of soldiers in Tiananmen Square in 1989. Boy with a handmade wire toy truck, Mon, Botswana, 1974. Metallica 1995.
That is 25. If even one of these stayed with you, subscribe. Next week we open the archives again. Some photographs deserve to be remembered. I'm Vlad, see you in next one.